Have you ever felt that subtle fear when bending down to pick something up? Or a hesitation before stepping up a higher stair? For many of us over 50, these small moments of apprehension aren't about a lack of muscle strength, but rather a silent concern growing in our minds: the fragility of our bones. The question, weak bones, echoes silently. We're bombarded with the idea that aging inevitably leads to porous bones and a constant risk of life-altering fractures. Osteoporosis is presented almost as a death sentence. But what if I told you the narrative we've been fed is incomplete? What if there's a body of knowledge, based on solid science, that isn't widely publicized and could be the key not just to slowing, but to helping reverse bone density loss? This isn't a video about a magic pill, but about a profound understanding of how our bodies truly function. Today, we'll unravel what might be considered the secret the industry often oversimplifies, focusing on a single piece of a much more complex puzzle. If you care about your independence, your mobility, and your quality of life in the years to come, or know someone who should, do yourself a favor. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The information we're about to share is a true game changer, and you'll want to grasp every detail. Because our bones aren't inert structures like the beams of a building. They are living tissues, constantly remodeling, a dynamic battlefield where cells build and break down bone tissue every single day. And understanding how to influence this battle in our favor is the first step to victory. The first thing that invariably comes to mind when we talk about bone health is calcium. Drink milk, eat cheese, take your calcium supplement. This message has been hammered into us for decades. And indeed, calcium is the primary building block of our bones. That's undeniable. However, focusing solely on calcium is like trying to build a sturdy house with only bricks, forgetting the cement, the steel beams, and the work of the masons. Modern science has revealed, increasingly clearly, that the effectiveness of calcium critically depends on a team of often overlooked nutritional cofactors. This is where the secret begins to be unveiled. We're talking about a powerful trio: vitamin D3, vitamin K2, and magnesium. Vitamin D3 is the most well-known of this group. It acts like a gatekeeper, opening the doors of our intestines to allow the calcium we ingest to be absorbed into our bloodstream. Without enough D3, most of the calcium you consume simply passes right through your system. This is why many doctors already prescribe D3 along with calcium. But absorption is just the beginning of the journey. Once calcium is in the blood, it needs direction, a clear command on where to go. If it simply circulates aimlessly, it can end up depositing in places it shouldn't, such as our arteries, kidneys, or soft tissues, a dangerous process known as calcification. And it is precisely at this point that the most crucial, and perhaps most neglected, piece of the puzzle comes into play, acting as a true GPS for calcium. This GPS, this conductor that orchestrates calcium's destiny in our bodies, is vitamin K2. This is where we dive into the heart of the scientific mechanism, into what's known as the calcium paradox. The paradox is this: how can a population that consumes large amounts of calcium still suffer so much from both osteoporosis and cardiovascular disease caused by artery calcification? The answer lies in the absence or deficiency of vitamin K2. K2 performs its magic by activating two essential proteins. The first is osteocalcin. Think of osteocalcin as the cement that locks the calcium bricks into the bone matrix. However, osteocalcin can only do its job after being switched on, or activated by vitamin K2. Without enough K2, osteocalcin remains inactive, and calcium cannot effectively bind to bones, no matter how much you consume. The second protein is matrix glay protein, or MGP. This protein is the guardian of our arteries and soft tissues. When activated by vitamin K2, MGP acts as a powerful scavenger, preventing calcium from depositing in the walls of blood vessels. A K2 deficiency leaves MGP inactive, paving the way for atherosclerosis, the hardening of arteries. Therefore, supplementing with calcium and vitamin D3 without adequate K2 can be a double-edged sword. Calcium is absorbed into the blood, But without the right direction, it can end up harming your cardiovascular health instead of strengthening your bones. It's an elegant and vital nutritional synergy that unravels why a sole focus on calcium is a flawed strategy. Understanding this mechanism is what transforms the fear of weak bones into an intelligent action plan. But does this all work in practice? What does scientific evidence tell us about the real impact of this combination on bone density in people like us? When we look for evidence, the story becomes even more compelling. We're not talking about theories, but about clinical observations and robust studies. One of the strongest bodies of evidence comes from Japan, where a fermented soybean extract called natto is a common food. Natto is the richest natural source of a specific form of vitamin K2 called MK7. Population studies observed that regions in Japan where natto consumption is higher show significantly lower rates of hip fractures, even if calcium intake isn't particularly high. Moving beyond observation, multiple controlled clinical trials, particularly with another form of K2, MK4, at pharmacological doses, have demonstrated impressive results. A meta-analysis published in the journal Osteoporosis International reviewed several of these studies and concluded that K2 supplementation can reduce vertebral fractures by about 60% and hip fractures by nearly 80%. This is extraordinary. As for magnesium, its role, while less direct, is equally fundamental. Magnesium participates in over 300 biochemical reactions in the body, including the conversion of vitamin D into its active form, the one the body can use. Without enough magnesium, the vitamin D you take or produce from the sun doesn't function optimally. Studies indicate that higher magnesium intake is associated with greater bone mineral density in older men and women. Now, it is our ethical duty to be honest about the strength and limitations of this evidence. The word reverse osteoporosis should be used with caution. What these studies consistently show is a significant improvement in bone mineral density, and most importantly, a drastic reduction in fracture risk. It's not a miraculous cure, but a powerful evidence-based strategy for rebuilding bone strength. The science is clear, but knowing this is just the first step. How can we translate this knowledge into practical, safe actions in our daily lives? Translating science into practice begins on our plates. Safely implementing this nutritional strategy involves both food and, in many cases, smart, guided supplementation. Let's start with food sources of vitamin K2. As mentioned, natto is the absolute champion, but its strong flavor and peculiar texture may not appeal to everyone. Fortunately, there are other sources, albeit with lower concentrations. Hard, aged cheeses like Gouda and Brie, the yolks of eggs from free-range chickens, and goose liver are good sources. For magnesium, nature offers us an abundance of options. Dark leafy greens like spinach and kale, pumpkin and sesame seeds, almonds, Brazil nuts, and even dark chocolate with high cocoa content. Vitamin D, in turn, is the sunshine vitamin. Safe sun exposure for about 15 to 20 minutes during milder sun hours with arms and legs exposed is the best way for our bodies to produce it. Food sources include fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel. Now, let's be realistic. For the over 50 population, obtaining optimal amounts of these nutrients from diet and sun alone can be a challenge. The skin's ability to produce vitamin D declines with age, and dietary sources of K2 aren't as common in the Western diet. This is where supplementation becomes a valuable tool. Many studies use vitamin D3 doses around 2,000 to 5,000 IU daily, and vitamin K2 in MK7 form around 100 to 200 micrograms. However, and this is crucial, these are just references. Your needs are unique. Therefore, it is essential to consult a doctor or nutritionist to perform blood tests and determine the exact dosages for your case. If this information is being helpful and clearing your mind, please hit the like button on this video. It's a simple gesture that helps our work reach more people who need to hear this vital message. But remember, providing the right building blocks is only half the equation. For bones to truly strengthen, they need a signal, a physical stimulus that tells the body, "Hey, I need to be stronger here." This physical stimulus is the mechanical trigger that activates the bone rebuilding process. There's a fundamental principle in bone biology known as Wolff's Law, which states, in simplified terms, that bone adapts to the loads and stresses it is subjected to. When you walk, run, jump, or lift something, you apply mechanical force to your skeleton. This force isn't detrimental. On the contrary, it sends a direct signal to the bone-building cells, osteoblasts, to spring into action. They begin to lay down more minerals and reinforce the bone architecture in those areas that are being most challenged. It's the body's natural response to challenge. If I'm going to be subjected to this load again, I better be stronger next time. So, what are the best exercises to trigger this mechanism? The answer lies in two main categories: weight-bearing exercises and resistance exercises. Weight-bearing exercises are those where you move against gravity, with your feet and legs supporting your body weight. Examples include brisk walking, dancing, climbing stairs, playing tennis. Activities like swimming or cycling, while excellent for cardiovascular health, aren't as effective for bone density because body weight is supported by water or the bike. The second category, resistance exercises, such as weightlifting with free weights, machines, or even resistance bands, is perhaps even more powerful. By contracting muscles against resistance, they pull on the bones they are attached to, creating tension that directly stimulates bone growth. Safety here is paramount, especially for those who already have a diagnosis of osteoporosis or osteopenia. Start slowly, focus on correct form, and ideally, seek guidance from a qualified physical therapist or fitness educator. They can create a safe and progressive program tailored to your condition. We now have the right nutrients and the physical stimulus. But our efforts can be in vain if, at the same time, we are consuming or doing things that act as true bone thieves, silently sabotaging all our hard work. While we focus on adding beneficial elements to our routine, it's equally crucial to identify and remove the bone-to-bone slammers I counted day. The bone thieves that may be sabotaging our skeletal health. These are factors in our lifestyle and diet that actively promote bone mass loss. One of the biggest villains is excess sugar and ultra-processed foods. A diet high in sugar promotes a state of low-grade chronic inflammation in the body, and this inflammation can accelerate the activity of bone-destroying cells, osteoclasts. Another common enemy on our table is excess sodium. When we consume too much salt, our kidneys work to excrete it through urine. And in this process, calcium gets dragged along. Essentially, the more salt you eat, the more calcium your body loses. Sodas, especially cola-type ones, contain phosphoric acid, which can interfere with the body's calcium and phosphorus balance, potentially leading to bone loss over time. Beyond diet, certain lifestyle habits are extremely detrimental. Smoking is a disaster for bones. It reduces blood flow to the skeleton, lowers estrogen production, a bone protective hormone, and impairs calcium absorption. Excessive alcohol consumption also interferes with the body's ability to absorb calcium and vitamin D and can affect hormones that regulate bone health. Finally, it's important to be aware that certain medications, such as long-term corticosteroid use, used to treat asthma, arthritis, and other inflammatory conditions, can have a significant negative impact on bone density. This doesn't mean you should stop taking a prescribed medication, but rather that you should have an open conversation with your doctor about monitoring and mitigating these effects. Eliminating or drastically reducing these bone thieves isn't just an additional step. It's the foundation upon which other strategies, nutrition and exercise, can be successfully built. Now that we've covered what to add, what to do, and what to avoid, it might seem like a lot of information. Let's simplify and organize it all into a clear, actionable daily plan. Building stronger bones doesn't have to be complicated. It's about incorporating small, consistent habits into your daily and weekly routine. Let's draw a blueprint, an action plan you can start following today. In the morning, upon waking, aim for 15 to 20 minutes of direct sunlight exposure if possible. This not only helps regulate your sleep cycle, but also kickstarts your body's vitamin D production for the day. Next, prepare a nutrient-focused breakfast. Instead of white bread and sugar, opt for eggs, with the yolk rich in K2, a handful of almonds or walnuts, a source of magnesium, or some full-fat Greek yogurt. If you use supplements, the morning is a great time to take them with a meal to improve absorption. Throughout the day, make a conscious effort to move. If you work at a desk, set alarms to get up and walk for a few minutes each hour. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Consider a brisk 30-minute walk during your lunch break. This constant weight-bearing activity adds up over the day. For lunch and dinner, build your plate around a good source of protein and plenty of dark leafy greens, like kale or spinach, which are rich in magnesium and other vitamins. Add pumpkin seeds to your salad for an extra magnesium boost. Regarding your weekly routine, set aside 2 to 3 non-consecutive days for resistance training. This doesn't mean you have to hit the gym. You can use resistance bands, ankle weights, or even your own body weight with modified squats and push-ups at home. The key is progression. Start light and gradually increase the difficulty as you feel stronger. Remember, consistency trumps intensity. It's the cumulative effect of these small daily acts that, over months and years, transforms your bone health. This plan is your practical guide, your tool to take control. However, before you dive in, there's one final, most important step that ensures your journey is safe, effective, and truly personalized. We've arrived at the most crucial part of our entire conversation. The true secret to reversing bone loss isn't a single nutrient or a specific exercise. It's the informed and collaborative partnership with your healthcare professional. This video, and all the information we share, serves a strictly educational purpose. It does not in any way substitute for the diagnosis, advice, and ongoing care of a qualified physician. Your health is unique, your medical history is particular, and any significant changes to your diet, supplementation, or exercise routine should be discussed with someone who knows your case thoroughly. Our mission here is to empower you, to give you the knowledge and the right questions so you can have a more productive, in-depth conversation with your doctor. Instead of just receiving a prescription, you can now actively participate in your treatment plan. Ask your doctor, "Doctor, could we check my vitamin D3 levels and perhaps magnesium as well?" Inquire, "What is your opinion on adding a vitamin K2 supplement to my protocol, considering the studies on its synergy with calcium?" And discuss, "Based on my current bone density, what type of resistance exercise is safest and most effective for me?" In summary, the path to stronger bones is paved by the nutritional synergy between calcium vitamin D3, vitamin K2, and magnesium, activated by the mechanical stimulus of weight-bearing and resistance exercises, and protected by eliminating the bone thieves from your lifestyle. And all of this guided by the wisdom and supervision of your doctor. If this content has opened your eyes to a new perspective on bone health, please share this video with your friends and family. Many people you love may be operating under the old, incomplete narrative of calcium. And now, we want to hear from you. Comment below. Which of these tips will you start implementing in your life starting today? Your journey to a stronger, more active, and independent life begins with that first step. Take it now.